Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to the Senior Scam Stopper program. We are so thrilled to have Senator Darrell Steinberg here. Senator Steinberg was elected to the state Senate in 2006, and in 2008 was chosen to lead as president pro tempore. He served in the state assembly from 1998 to 2004, and before that was an employee rights attorney, administrative law judge, and Sacramento City Council member. Senator Steinberg has earned several awards for his public service to Californians and is known for confronting issues head-on and being successful in problem solving. Senator Steinberg is an advocate for children, education, and mental health programs, and he has authored legislation to help foster children and expand mental health programs. In addition, we are here today because he cares about educating you, his senior constituents, about fraud. It is my honor and privilege to introduce your Senator, Darrell Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Jane, for your very nice introduction. And more importantly, thank you for your service and the service of the Contractor State License Board in taking on these very important issues. I say the same to the Sacramento Police Department and to the Sacramento Sierra Building Trades and to everybody else who has come together to make this issue of protecting seniors a real priority. I want to acknowledge and recognize and urge you to meet with my very fine staff who helped put this together as well, Lori Catalano and Diana Cowan, who are leaders in my district office, and they hear on the front line, every day what's happening to people and how people are at risk, especially if we don't come together and educate and find ways to protect. The good news, there's always good news. The good news is that people are living longer in life. That's a wonderful thing. The society is changing in many respects. Just look in Sacramento County, people who are 60 plus, almost 250,000 people, and that number is anticipated to increase by between 100 and 150% by 2020. And of course, that's the demographic throughout our state and throughout our country. In California, almost 45,000 seniors, though, live alone. And it's no surprise that seniors, especially who live alone, are vulnerable to scam artists who have developed a, quote, expertise in how to prey on them and how to take their assets. And this is exacerbated, I think, during a time when people are already in kind of a fragile state. A lot of the resources for ombudsperson services, for programs for people, seniors who were shut in, the adult day health centers. You just go down the line. And unfortunately, there have been a lot of budget cuts, and the so-called safety net, especially for seniors, is frayed. It's my desire and commitment that as things turn around in the state financially, that we begin restoring funding the way to a lot of those programs. But it's going to take time because the economy never recovers as fast as we hope. So what do we do? What do we do in a time of limited resources to help people and to protect seniors from predators? And I think one of the answers is before us here today. We have to team up. We have to cross over from our artificial boundaries. We have to say that it is the obligation of the contractors and the building trades and the police department and the sheriff's department and the state of California to pool resources, to pool expertise, and to provide all of the front-end education necessary so that seniors can protect themselves. And certainly this issue of contracts and somebody knocking on your door or making a phone call or saying, you know, we want to help you repair this part of your home or your apartment, or give us some money and we will come back and give you an estimate as to what it's going to take to help you improve your lives. We can combat this, and we must combat it. Together, last year we did a little thing. We merely extended the sunset for the Contractor State License Board until 2016. It's one of those things that, you know, never be in the newspaper, doesn't get the attention, probably shouldn't. But it is important that we have regulators, in the best and strongest sense of the word, looking out for the people of our community and the people of our state. And so when I see that the ratio of unreported cases is an alarming 44-1, reported cases to unreported cases, it tells me a couple things. Number one, we need to restore funding for senior services. We need to restore, thank you, please continue. We need to restore funding for our law enforcement agencies to be able to focus on these kinds of crimes. And we need to focus on prevention with even more intensity than we focus on enforcement, because we will shrink that number with the restoration of investment from 44-1 to something much lower, but we'll never get down to 1-1, at least in the near term. But what we can do is look at those 44 instances and reduce them, because the senior citizen themselves knew and was educated not to be taken in by somebody who does not have their best interest at heart. And that's what today's workshop is about. I don't know what television station this will be on. Hopefully network prime time. But we need it. We have a good crowd out here today, but what you're going to talk about today, we've got to find ways to spread far and wide. And I know that this is the first of a series of these kinds of workshops, and I pledge to you that my office and I personally will work with you to do everything we can to not only restore the funding we talked about, but to spread the word so that people can protect themselves. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. We are very privileged also to have two of our board members from the Contractor State License Board here today. It's very nice that they are local and that they were available to come, and they would also like to speak to you. Joan Hancock and Matt Kelly, please come up.
Hi, my name is Joan Hancock, and welcome to our January 13th, 2012 Senior Scam Stopper. I'm here today with Matt Kelly, who also serves on our board, and Matt is our past chair. We're also here with many members that work at the department, and here to help educate you and maybe give you some tools today on ways that you can, as the senator said, protect yourself. Our board has been in existence, I'm just going to give you a few facts, but we've been in existence since 1929. And we are one of over 40 boards that's regulated by the Department of Consumer Affairs. And there are at least, well, somewhere over 250,000, well, excuse me, I'm wrong. It's over 300,000 contractors that we license up and down the state. So our board sits, and the function of our board is to really work on policy, and we do this by having the people that actually work at the board and do the everyday enforcement, licensing, these public affairs events such as we're putting on today. They're the ones that do all the groundwork that we get to support and help by helping form policy. The Senior Scam Stoppers have been going on in cooperation with legislators in the states, in our state, since 1999. And we're very lucky today to have the senator here with us, and I know you're very busy and you probably need to leave, but thank you so much for joining us today, Senator Steinberg. I also wanted to give you some information on who we license. There's over 43 different classifications of licensees that we actually regulate, and they come up in 3 different classifications. There's a Class A, which is a general engineer, and and those people can do pretty much everything. They can do engineering, construction, and they can do general contracting. There's a Class B, and I'm a Class B general building contractor, and I've been a building contractor since 1977, and I have the hands to prove it. And there is the third one is a Class C, and those are specialty contractors, and there's actually 43 different classifications. So those are your plumbers, electricians, masons, landscapers, and so on. So this is the group, and this makes up, like I said, over 300,000 different licensees in our state. So Matt is our enforcement chair.
Yes.
And enforcement is one of the 4 components or divisions within the board. So we have these 4 divisions: licensing, enforcement, public affairs, and I'm the chair of the Public Affairs Committee, and we have a legislative component as well. And we work in concert. We travel up and down the state 4 times a year. We go to our board meetings, and all the board members are from different parts of the state. Not all the board members are contractors. There's 5 contractors and 10 public members, one of which is a senior. So you are represented by our board. I'm going to look at my notes here for a second because I don't want to miss probably the most important information that I have to give you today. And that is just the fact that we're here to really educate, and the staff is going to be here for as long as you are to give you some tips on how to protect yourself. And like the senator said, it's really all about prevention. You know, we're trying to do more with less these days, as everybody is. Everybody's tightening our belts, including our organization, and these people work really hard. So the tips that I have to offer you today, not just as a contractor, but also as a board member, and just like you, soon to be senior. Actually, I think I am one. So here's some tips. What do you do when you need somebody to help you do something? You know, you need a new roof, or you have a plumbing leak, and it's something that you can't do. Seniors, we know you're stubborn. You always want to do it yourself, and you can. But sometimes you need a little help, and you need to ask for help. So what do? You go to the hardware store and you say, do you have a recommendation for somebody? Or you go to your yellow pages and you look down, you know, the pages of the yellow pages, and you're looking under plumbing for a plumbing contractor. Or if you go online and on the internet, you might find somebody there. So you call them, they come to your door. When you go see a doctor or a dentist, you go down there, you sit in their waiting room, and what do you see on the wall? You see a license hanging on the wall. When somebody comes to your house to do something for you, they are to be licensed. If the project that you have for them is over $500, it is required that they carry a license. That you don't go to their office, you don't see a picture hanging, you ask for their license. And the license looks like this. This is my license. It's a white credit card, that's all it is. And it has this little logo on the bottom that you're gonna see, that you see right here. It's the same logo. And you have somebody, if they come to your door, you have a right, and the first thing you should say, are you so-and-so? Yeah, I'm so-and-so. And you're a licensed contractor? Yes. Can I see your license? There's no harm in asking, just like they say. The second thing you might want to think about doing, you've told them what your problem is, you want a written estimate. You take that written estimate, you don't have to act right then and there. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to call you. You don't know this person from Adam. You just got him out of the phone book or online. Ask for referrals. Ask them for some referrals with phone numbers, people that you can call. All right, so I'm going to pass this on to, if I haven't taken up too much of your time, to Matt here, who has been on the board for a great deal longer than I have, and he has a lot of wisdom. And I just want to thank staff for putting this on, and thank you very much for coming and for your time, and remember to talk to your friends. It's very important. And always ask for help. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Kelly, and as Joan mentioned, I am the chair of the Enforcement Committee, and the Enforcement Committee is charged with ensuring that seniors are protected, that unlicensed contractors are not taking advantage of yourselves or anybody else. So with our enforcement division, we do a great deal of enforcement activity. We chase contractors that we know have taken advantage of individuals like yourselves, and we target them, and we make it a point to put them out of business. The enforcement division is there with the chief mission of the Department of Consumer Affairs, and that is to protect consumers. Part of the license board, as Joan mentioned, I've been on the license board for several years. I won't stand here and bore you with all of the same details that you've heard already, but it is important for you to know that it is your right to ask for a license. When somebody comes to your door and was ready to perform work for you, it's your right to ask for the license. If they come to do work, as she said, make sure that they write out what they're going to do, how much they're going to charge you to do it. And you don't have to act at that moment, as Joan said. You have time to show that to somebody else and ask them if it makes sense to them. Make sure that you utilize your friends. Certainly everybody here doesn't look to me like they'd be easily taken advantage of, but you may know other seniors that need to have work done on their homes. Make sure that you counsel them on what you've learned here today. Certainly the license board is there to license the construction industry. I've got some 25 plus years in the construction industry. It's an industry that's given a lot to me, and it's a pleasure to be on the license board and give back to the license board. Yes, I would be happy to answer a question.
Okay. My question is, are the circumstances the same for licensing if you are working with Lowe's or Home Depot and they are going to do installations? Do they have contractor licenses individually?
The individuals that they hire to do the work should possess a contractor's license.
Okay.
Again, like anybody that you may allow into your home, you want to know more about that individual. So, you know what, you're here to do the work. I understand you work for Lowe's. Show me that you're licensed or the company that you work for is licensed. And whenever they provide you with a written estimate, that written estimate should have the company name on it. It should have the company's license number. If they have any insurance, it should list as much information. You want it to be as broad and as much information as possible.
Right.
Yes?
When you're getting work done on your home,
It is the responsibility of the homeowner or the contractor. Either one of you can obtain that. It needs to be obtained. And don't ever let a contractor tell you, well, you know what, I'm not licensed, but if you get the permit, because there's an owner-builder permit out there that many unscrupulous contractors will say, hey, you get the owner-builder permit, and since I'm not licensed, it'll make it okay and I can come do your work for you. Take a bunch of money up front as the down payment, and then you may never hear from them again. So for your question, you're able to, as a homeowner, to obtain a permit for the work that you're going to have done on your house. But before you do that, you should have the information on the contractor, so when you obtain the permit, you can fill out those boxes on the form appropriately, listing the contractor that's going to do the work.
And is that normally how it's done? Homeowner gets the permit?
Contractor should get the permit. Why should you have to? You're contracting out to this person. For instance, HVAC replacement in your home or water heater replacement, those contractors get those permits all the time. There's no reason that you should have to wade through a process that's not familiar to you and could be difficult depending on how you go about it and who you interact with. So it's important, let that contractor that does that on a regular basis, let them do it and make sure that they show it to you. And if you have any questions about the validity of it, don't hesitate to call the building department, reference any numbers on the form that he's given you that indicate it's a building permit, and they should be able to tell you if it's a legitimate permit or not.
So when they show up to do the work, it's fair to ask them to show you the permit?
Yes, and if they haven't obtained the permit, you should say, you know what, you need to obtain that before you start working.
There's a very good reason for that, because if they do work on your property, you actually could be liable to the building department for 4 times the amount of the permit that you did. Yeah, it's true. And the Sacramento City Building Department will tell you that.
Okay, I have a question. What do you think about the referrals list, like Angie's list, or any of those referral lists that they're now advertising on TV, where they said they have reputable contractors and licensees?
You know what, that's a third-party entity that can be very helpful, because typically they're making their reference or their support of a contractor or entity based on consumer feedback. So people have told them, yes, we've used these people. I think if you'd research those lists, you'll find out that there's no payment between the people that are on that list and the people that operate the list. But nonetheless, so I've called a contractor from Angie's list. He showed up at my house. It doesn't absolve you of the responsibility of saying, may I see your license?
And one other thing, you can call the contractors board with that license. Oh, I'm sorry. Don't go away. You can call the contractors board, or if you go on the internet, you can go under CSLB, and there's a place there where you just punch a button. The button says check a license, and you can punch that button. You can take that card, or even, let's say, oh, I don't have my license today, and they give you a business card. Well, you can check and see if they do have a license, but you also want to make sure they are who they say they are. And just because somebody has a license, they might not be in good standing. A license that's in good standing is somebody that has, paid their fees, and they do everything by the book, the way that we are supposed to, in fairness to other contractors and in fairness to you as a consumer. I want to just mention one other thing I forgot. It's one of those important tips. Besides getting, something in writing, getting an estimate in writing, get some other estimates. And there was one other thing I meant to say. Oh, wait, okay, now they're ready to be paid, right? They want some money up front. Matt mentioned it. How much are you required to give them up front? So the rule there is 10% or $1,000, which is ever less. 10%. So if you have a contract that is $9,000, then you do the math, okay? It's 10%. And, somebody, well, I really need that money for this, that, or the other thing. That's the rule.
And typically, your screen door being replaced, maybe a faucet being replaced is not that great. it's not unreasonable to expect whoever shows up to your door to be well capitaled enough to be able to make the trip to the hardware store, buy the faucet and the other parts, and show up with them to fix it before you pay him. And the senator was not underplaying it at all. Believe me, there are people out there that are unscrupulous, just waiting for the opportunity to meet somebody that needs work done on their house and tell them, well, you know what, your door doesn't close very well, that needs to be fixed, and you know the reason that needs to be fixed is because you've got dry rot down here. I can fix all of that, but you know what, it's gonna take, if they can get you to write a $100 check, a $200 check, any check they can get you to write to send them on the way to the hardware store or the lumber store to buy wood, they're gonna get you to do it, and then you'll be scratching your head why you can't get a hold of them and why they haven't returned in so many hours.
Yeah.
So be very careful. It is good to have references, as the gentleman mentioned, from Angie's List. It's good to work with somebody that you know, a friend or a neighbor or somebody may have worked with. It's paramount that you ask a contractor if he's gonna do a large piece of renovation or work on your house. You know what? You've done some work in the area. Give me some references that I can call so that you can call somebody that he may have worked for in the past and get the opportunity to speak to somebody. Or she, pardon me. My apologies. And have the ability to speak to somebody that may be able to tell you that, yes, he was very fair with me, he treated me well, and he did not take advantage of me.
What happens if the inspection fails? What if you get the work done and the inspection comes out and fails? Who's on the hook for that? Is that the contractor?
The contractor needs to fix that work. He needs to complete that work to a satisfactory state, satisfactory as demonstrated by being able to pass final inspection for some work. Yes?
Does every subcontractor who works under a contractor on a project also have to be licensed?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Every contractor at every tier has to be licensed if they're going to do $500 worth of work. It's not, gee, it takes me $500 in wages, or that's my pay to do the work, and I need $500 in materials. It's $500 materials and labor.
Okay.
So you can see that for something as simple as maybe having a gate replaced on a fence may trip that licensed requirement. Yes, please.
I have two questions. One, you just brought up a gate on the fence. Do you have to have a permit for that? It has to be replaced.
You know, the way most building departments work is if you're altering your structure or you're connected to the structure in some way, fence is not quite there.
Then I don't have to. All right, when I first moved into my house, it was an association house. My bedroom wall backs up to my neighbor's garage.
Uh-huh.
All right, it had been built in the 70s. When I moved in, I had all kinds of renovation work, and I want to know how this retroactive thing goes. My electrician went in the garage for something, and he says, my God, you mean that the hot water heater wasn't vented properly.
Mhm.
I could have had an explosion at any time. When they put in the new stove, they found the old one had been hardwired in some way that's against all things now.
Right.
Who do you complain about that to a board, or do you just ignore it?
Well, you have to understand that if that work was done sometime 5 years or longer ago, it'd be very difficult to.
I know it would be, but you shouldn't have to report it though, is how you.
Well, you
Well,
want to correct it for your own safety.
Well, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
So-
was, and then I thought, well,
If you know who
this is
did
wrong.
the shoddy work, you might be able to find them on, under the license
Obviously,
classification.
This was a group that went on into all the houses.
very good possibility, and if you were able to obtain the name of the entity that did that work, you could certainly approach them, tell them, look, I spent X amount of dollars trying to fix the work that you had done. He may tell you to get lost, but then you know what? You would be able to file a complaint like anybody with the Better Business Bureau,
I
or
want to know how far my responsibility was.
Some of those questions, when they're about particular subject matter versus a person, we do the people. and the building department will do the thing. So, you know, if you're not sure whether you need a permit, call the building department in your location.
Or if it wasn't disclosed prior to the sale of your home,
Yeah.
somebody may have been aware of it and kept that from you when they sold you the home.
I don't know, the whole thing is so screwy, I don't think
Sometimes that's how it is. Sir, you had your hand up?
Wondering about, what about insurance? Who's responsible for insurance on the work that gets done?
The contractor is responsible for carrying the insurance. They will carry insurance, or they will have a sum of money on file with the license board in the form of a bond, a performance bond.
Sure.
But that doesn't relieve them of liability for workman's comp insurance. Another thing, if you look at them on the license, on the license board's website, and they may be exempt from workman's comp because they're a sole entity. They have no employees, they do all the work themselves. Well, that's fine if they show up by themselves, but if they show up with anybody else that's working with them or helping them, it's you have to be aware that they're not complying with the law.
Why is that important? Because we see cases, and we hear about cases where contractor comes on your job site and somebody that is employed by them gets their arm cut or something. They go to the who's going to pay for it if they don't have workers' comp insurance? They could sue you. You know, we don't want to see that happen. You don't want to see that happen. So if they show up with employees, like Matt says, you know, they need to be doing things by the book. They're on the they got to be on a payroll, and they have to have workers' comp for their employees.
And as much as we could probably stand up here for a long time and answer your questions, we've got representatives from the police department, the public utilities department, and others. So I'm going to stick around and listen for a while, and I hope the rest of everything you hear is educational to you and helpful.
Thank you.